Good morning, Jackson, Mississippi, and all surrounding areas. You tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. It starts now. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I am, of course, Clay Edwards. We are live here at the Cotton Exchange Plaza out in Flora, Mississippi, right off Highway 49. Hey, if you're coming to Flora, Yazoo City, or if you're coming north on 49, or if you were heading south on 49, and I'm referring to the Madison County 49, the one that turns into Medgar Evers, they are still doing road work in the southbound lane where it buckled. So prepare to have to slow down and merge over into the left lane, yada, yada, yada. But plan accordingly. That's all I'm saying. It will be a little bit of a slowdown. If you want to give us a call today, the Mac Hike of Flowood phone line is 601-879-0002. If you want to shoot a text in, and man, y'all burnt the text line up yesterday. Thank y'all. I think that's the most text I've had in a single show. So the text line is working, and I do appreciate you all supporting that. The Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. And I am joined in studio this morning with a special guest. We're not going to talk a whole lot of politics today, even though he is a politician.
Public servant. I am joined by a buddy of mine, longtime buddy of mine, Jayce Powell. He is the Alderman at Large, or one of the Aldermen at Large in Gluckstadt, a day one, a founder. That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Good morning, Clay. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Jayce, thank you for getting up and joining the party this morning. So you may know Jayce, you may not. He has been a DJ around Jackson for 30 years. DJ Trix is the name.
That is the name.
Is the name. That's Trix. And,
yep.
In the 90s, it had to have an X in it.
It had 3 X's in the 90s. It's gone to just 1 X now. It was triple X rated back then.
Oh, yeah. Everything was extreme. So, and Jayce also owns Bicycle Revolution there in Gluckstadt, or one of the owners there of Bicycle Revolution. And they've started up a skateboard shop called Lucky Town
Skate Shop.
Lucky Town Skate Shop. And it's inside Bicycle Revolution.
It is.
And look, man, as y'all know me, I love nostalgia. I love the 90s. I love the 80s too, music-wise. But I love the 90s as far as that's when I really grew up, and you start working and start being able to buy things on your own and whatnot. And we both have a love for like old school skateboards.
Oh, yeah.
Or the decks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not getting on a board anymore. They then go out from under me and I'll need a life alert.
Sure.
Falling and I can't get up. But we were talking about like the Caballeros and the Tony Hawks, the Bones Brigade stuff. And
all of the good stuff.
Yeah, man. Look, I said, I've got 2 decks hanging up in my man cave or office or living room or whatever it is at my house. And I was like, man, I really need to get some more of these to kind of finish this look out. I mean, the last thing I need to do right now is spend $400 or $500 on random decks just to hang on the wall, but I will.
Oh, yeah. I'm right there with you.
Well, so look, let's talk about, I want to cover a bunch of stuff this morning, but one of the things I'm curious of is how do we go from club DJ to Alderman at Large? Oh, that's an interesting path.
Sure. Well, as a club DJ, that was something that just growing up, I always loved the music. I loved the DJs, listening to old school hip hop groups like UTFO and Mantronics, and listening to the DJ scratching, and just what the DJ did was just awesome. And had the opportunity to spend many years in clubs and doing weddings and stuff. But the opportunity to help develop a city came along with. We moved to Gluckstadt about 13 years ago. And at that time, we'd been living in Ridgeland, and I was just like, we're kind of out here a little bit. It's out in the country. We like it. And at that point, they were trying the second incorporation. They tried 3 different incorporation attempts for the city of Gluckstadt. So at this point, they were working on the second time, and I kind of posted up on social media, well, hey, we moved out here to be out in the country. I didn't really want to be in the city again. And some of the guys that were working on the incorporation, Kerry Manager and some of those folks, reached out to me and explained to me why they were working on incorporation. With Canton moving south, with the expansion, just people moving into Gluckstadt. I mean, the 12, 13 years we've been there, it's grown tremendously.
I remember that Facebook post. I remember seeing that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, he reached out to me, and, we just kept in communication. And as we tried the 3rd time for the incorporation, they reached out, wanted to know if I'd like to be involved, and definitely wanted to. I have a history. I mean, I grew up in the country in Louisiana, and my parents instilled to me that you need to get out and vote. You need to be, in the public and do what you can do to help out. And so this is an opportunity, for me to be able to do something like that.
Well, I think it makes a big difference. Well, thank you for deciding to do that too, because I think more and more people need to get involved, and I think we're at that cycle of life where everybody starts realizing you got to get involved.
Sure.
I wish I had figured that out 20 years ago.
Sure.
But as life goes, I was busy doing other things.
You and me both.
But I think it's really important though when you have a business owner in the community that is in the politics, in the running the community. I think that's very important. I don't want to take nothing away from your average everyday citizens that get up and go to work. That they're extremely important as well. But when you get a business owner that's dealt with the nonsense,
payroll and everything,
I think cities should be ran like businesses.
Amen.
They shouldn't be subsidized by this, that, and the other. They should. If you make it, spend it. If you don't.
Sure.
And that's the problem that America's finding itself in, is we have created a lot of money that we didn't earn.
Sure.
And we're all paying for it now with this inflation.
Yep. Well, I know that with the city, like you're saying, we have a budget. We've had to go through and amend our budget a couple of times as we're changing things. The state has a budget, but the federal government doesn't have a budget they have to adhere to, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. I don't get
those omnibus bills.
Yeah.
They just go. They just go and add a zero to the computer. Like, here's how much money we have.
Yep.
Inflation be damned.
So I don't understand that. As a business owner, as I do our managing our finances at our house the same way. We have a budget at our house that we go through. I've got a checklist that the first of the month and the 15th of the month to go through and check off everything when I pay the bills and whatever money's left over we can do with. But the same with our business. We've got a checklist. We pay all of our bills and. The city, we pretty much do the same thing, so that's how it should be.
So I was out at a buddy of mine's shop the other day out there, and I saw the Gluckstadt police cars.
Oh yeah,
the cruisers. They're not cars. They're, I think, Durangos.
Durangos, yeah,
like
looking good. Chief Watts did an awesome job, and Austin LaSource and those guys designing those. They look great.
They do. It works. It's not like tacky. I mean, the Gluckstadt, the font. I mean, this is little stuff, but it's important to me.
Sure.
It's like it plays well. It's not gaudy.
Sure.
It's with the white vehicles with the black vinyl, and we've got the Gluckstadt. One of my fun experiences in Gluckstadt, I waffled about telling this story on the way over here, but I was like, oh, whatever. This is my show. I'll talk about whatever I want.
That's right.
And I love German Fest.
Sure.
I think that is one of the coolest events that I've ever been to, and this may be bigger. This may be way more of a thing in Louisiana. It may not, but I grew up in a traditional Southern Baptist church in Mississippi, in Jackson. I grew up at Alta Woods Baptist, and now I go to Hickory Ridge Baptist out in Florence. And to be able to go to church and buy a beer was just the coolest thing in the world to me, or unique. Maybe cool is not the word I'm looking for, but it was so unique. I was like, they sell beer at church? I get a beer at church?
Oh, yeah.
And but German Fest is a cool deal, man. And I think that's going to be something that Gluckstadt, I mean, it's already wrapped its arm around it.
Big time.
But, figuring out how to grow that, because that corner is getting developed. You got a grocery store there now. How do you keep the charm of it and grow it at the same time? And events like that, because I think it looks like with Brandon, with the amphitheater, I think that is I can't believe it took as long as it did for Central Mississippi to get an amphitheater.
Oh, yeah.
But glad we finally got one, and Brandon's reaping the benefits of it. Pearl's got the hotel rooms. So Pearl's actually doing really well because of it. Pearl has the hotel rooms, but it quality of life stuff like that. Are there any plans for anything in the deck for, maybe not an amphitheater? I know that's a big investment there, but quality of life stuff, what y'all looking at
Well,
there?
right now we're still developing our city as far as the police department. Public Works is next, so any kind of stuff like that. I know people want parks and such, but all that's going to be down to pipe work. We've got other bigger issues to deal with, finishing the police department. Like I said, we're starting to work. Initially on year 3, we were looking at public works, and we're already starting to, amended our budget, our last board meeting, to be able to purchase a truck and some equipment that we can start doing some public works and try to go ahead and start easing some of that from the county. So that's going to be our main priority, especially for next year. Another 3 or 4 years, who knows what may happen, but as of right now, there's nothing in the pipe works or anything like that.
Well, I think it's good to set realistic expectations. and just like, hey guys, let's have some patience. Let's do this right. It's a sprint, not a race.
Amen.
All right. I'll tell you what. Let's take a break real quick. You're listening to the Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined by Jayce Powell, aka DJ Trix, Alderman at Large out there in Gluckstadt. If you're a Gluckstadt citizen, you got any questions for Jayce, give us a shout. The Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line is 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. This segment is going to be brought to you by my good friends over there at Watkins Construction and Roofing. Michael Deere, Jamie Price, that whole team over there. A roof repair can cause you a lot of stress. Choosing the right roofing company to repair your roof is very important. Most contractors will try to convince you that replacement is the only way to go. And that, my friends, that is not the Watkins way. Hashtag. They believe in an honest assessment that doesn't necessarily mean replacement. In most cases, all you need is a repair. So whether you have a leaky roof, you need chimney repair, flat roof repair, roof water leakage, shingle roof repair, metal roof repair, or chimney flashing repair needed, Watkins Construction and Roofing is your go-to roof repair specialist. Give Watkins Construction and Roofing a call today for your complimentary assessment at 601-966-8233, or check them out online at watkinsconstructioninc.com. And their new commercials that are running on TV with that annoying drip are hilarious. I think they have hit a home run from a marketing standpoint. I'm sure you've seen the commercials. Johnny Casada too. I saw Johnny in one of the commercials over there. I'm sure y'all know Johnny, man. If your girls play softball, y'all know Johnny Casada. Anyway, just good folks over there, man. Tell them you heard it on the Clay Edwards Show. All right, I am joined in studio by Jayce Powell, proprietor of Bicycle Revolution and Lucky Town Skate Shop there in Gluckstadt. He's also Alderman at Large, and in another life and part-time in this life, he is a club DJ or party DJ now.
Party DJ now. Yeah, I still do a lot of weddings and different events. Don't do a whole lot of club stuff anymore.
Well, let's jump in the DeLorean and go back in time here.
Let's do it.
How did you get your start in the clubs? Because my first, and I want to lay this out because I get excited anytime I get to talk about Inez's.
Oh, sure.
That was my first job in the club business. Was 17 years old with a fake ID, working the door at Inez's, checking other people's IDs.
Miss Inez, I love her.
Yeah. So how'd you get started?
Well, so I guess my senior year, which had been 1990, like I said earlier, I'd always loved hip hop music and everything, and graduated, and we went down to Fort Walton and went into Cassius. And Cervello, which was a electronic dance music band, was performing at that point.
Cash has always had the cool shirts.
Oh yeah, they did.
The bumper stickers,
yep, all the good stuff. Yep. And so I was just like, man, this is pretty cool. And then the DJs started playing after that, and I was just sitting up there and actually watching the DJs, and I'm like, man, I really like this. And came back to Jackson and ended up going to Hudson's and bought a little mixing board, and I borrowed a turntable from my aunt and borrowed a turntable from a friend of mine. And started buying records. And a buddy of mine, his family owned United Beverage at the point in life. And so we'd rent the clubhouse. I'd set up my turntables. He'd bring the kegs, and we'd have little shindigs and everything. And so so the evolution started there. But a buddy of mine, Ron Smith, introduced me to a gentleman named Alan Wright. He worked at a gas station in Clinton. And he was a club DJ.
I remember Alan. He was a legend, man.
Alan's a legend. And so I would go up there, and I would just pester him. And finally, he kind of warmed up to me a little bit, and he started inviting me. He had an apartment over in Ridgeland, and he started inviting me over there. And Alan had a nice rain mixer, had the 1200s, and he knew his stuff. And so he just started me on that journey. And I can remember he took 2 copies of Egypt to Egypt from Egyptian Lover. We flipped it over onto the instrumental side. He's like, you're going to be on green and green on the pitch control. And he's like, I want you to mix these two together. And that's how it all started right there. And at that time, Alan was a DJ at Inez's. He was one of the residents at Inez's. And so I go up there with him.
This is the original Bailey Avenue location.
Right, Bailey Avenue.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I go up there with him. And so one night he was finally, I felt like I was starting to master the art of mixing, and he's like, well, you want to make your first debut here and everything? I was like, yeah, let's do this. So got up there, and it was a train wreck. I mean, the mixes were just everywhere. I was just like, oh, my gosh.
The stage is shaking and stuff with people dancing on it. It's not friendly to needles.
Yeah, not at all. But yeah, so Inez's was the first club I got to DJ in, and then Alan moved on, and most clubs had different DJs. So Sleepy and Howie, I don't know if you remember those guys from Wildlife Society.
Oh yeah.
So that was the other part of it. They're huge influence as well, because on Friday nights, I guess it was the Y101 back then, but they did live shows from Kathmandu's. And so
it would 94 Trix.
94 Trix
would have been the top 40 station.
Whatever the station was, they did live on Friday night. You had live mixes from Kathmandu's, and Sleepy and Howie were the DJs on the live mixes. So, listening to them on the radio, recording them. Of course, we had our cassette tapes back then, recording all that kind of stuff, and going up into the Kathmandu's, getting to meet them. Well, they also ended up being resident DJs at Inez's, so I got to meet them as well, and started kind of pestering them a little bit, and. So that kind of took me under the wings as well. So Alan did a fantastic job of teaching me how to mix beats and everything. And then Sleepy and Howie was where I learned the cutting and scratching and doing tricks. And, those guys were just phenomenal. Sleepy, his name, he lived up to a lot of times. You go up there and he'd have his chair kicked back and he'd be asleep up on the stage. But you let him get on his turntables. He just, he did his magic on them.
Well, so for me, I DJ'd at my clubs out of a necessity to DJ, but I had the dueling CD decks,
right?
And of course the computer pre-Serato days. But sure. I digress. But so I got my start working the door at Inez's. Well, I got my start fighting at Inez's, and she finally set me down and was like, "Here's the rules of the land if you're going to be around here."
Right.
And so I started working the door with her, and this, that, and the other, but. At the same time, Stephen Barnett was getting started DJing and really kind of got into the production stuff. And if you've done any events around Jackson, you know who Stephen Barnett is. And he's done well for himself. But DJ Hands with Mississippi Mafia was the DJ. And, growing up in the 90s in Jackson, we didn't have very many real hip-hop groups. We had Wildlife Society, Mississippi Mafia. Those were, as far as I was concerned, that was Tupac and Biggie. They were just as huge to me. I've always been more of a local hero, local celebrity fan than a national celebrity fan. I look at local legends, however you want to say it. So I was like getting to hang out with DJ Hands, and I got to go to the studio when Mississippi Mafia was recording their second album and be a part of all that down there at Edward St. Pay's Studios down off High Street.
Yep.
And was just in there when they were doing all that, and this is the coolest thing. I need to be a part of this for the rest of my life somehow or another. And that is like I always looked at the clubs as the gateway to the real fun.
Sure. And
to be at the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I'm a weirdo. I love loading, when you bring a big concert or DJ event or whatever to town, you build up the promotion for it. I love the promotion. To me, that's, still to this day, I promote this radio show like it's a concert.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that's one thing that I take a lot of credit or a lot of pride in is promoting. But to me, I loved the day of a show. You had the butterflies. Are we going to lose money? Are we going to make money? Is the tour manager going to be a jerk? Is the band going to be in a good mood? But the load in, the setup of the production, and watch it all come off the trailer and come together. Mm-hmm. And I saw the club was always my gateway to be able to do that and enjoy that. I didn't really, people won't believe this, but I really didn't enjoy running clubs.
Right.
But it was kind of a necessary evil to be involved in music without a lick of musical talent.
There you go. Yeah, I never had an opportunity to run one, but like I said, DJ'd at many of them. Like I said, Miss Inez was awesome. Her and Big Ace, they gave me my first stop. Rest in peace. Gave me my first job in a nightclub once Alan moved on and spun there, for a while, and then went on to Jackson's Double Deuce, which was the old Linden's off of Mill Street, and Club Rendezvous, which is off of the
hold on. Back up. Jackson's Double Deuce. This doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, it's a guy named Stacy and a couple other guys. I can't remember his last name, but there were a couple of owners. It was kind of short lived. They closed. We actually had a shooting there.
Well, shocker!
Imagine that, right? But yeah, man, somebody got shot. A couple of people actually got shot.
Where was it at?
The old Linden's building on Mill Street. Man, I can't remember the exact location. I just remember. Did you ever go to Linden's?
No. I'm over here. Somebody has stomped me on a Jackson
So
club.
Linden's was around about the same time as Inez's. If I remember correctly, he was related to Inez.
So this would have been early 90s.
This is early 90s. Yeah, this is probably 91, 92.
Okay, so I didn't start driving until 92. I turned 15 in 92, and probably it was 93, 94 before I dabbled off into some fake IDs, and I don't think I turned 18 until like 96. So that's kind of my timeline.
Well, I remember at Jackson Double Deuce, I was DJing one night, and all of a sudden people come running in, flipping tables over and stuff, and I'm kind of like, what's going on? And found out there'd been shooting out in the parking lot. A big fight broke out or something. Somebody broke out a gun, and so anyway, that one was kind of short-lived. But they moved to Club Rendezvous, which is off I guess it's the Dog Wash over there by Jackie's. It used to be a church on the interstate. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right there on the frontage road there. Yeah, that's good stuff there, man. So did you ever get to go to Kathmandu's? You would have been.
Yeah.
You would have
I went to Kathmandu's.
How old are you?
I'm 50.
50. Oh yeah. So you got just enough head start on me that you got to experience Kathmandu's and some of those really cool reservoir clubs. I mean the one that was across from the dock went through a bunch of different names.
Millennium and all those.
Yeah, Marina Cantina, Millennium, and that was some. We didn't realize it at the time. Because when you're living in the moment, you don't realize how good something is till it's gone.
Sure.
A little Cinderella song there. Don't know what you got till it's gone. But, man, Jackson had such a great club scene.
Oh, man, it was awesome. Awesome.
And I look back, and I was so glad to get to be a part of that. And I know there's kids that exist in this world today because of nights at my club.
Sure.
Like to know that you affected somebody's life like that because of an idea you had.
Yep.
They probably didn't. They probably weren't very appreciative of it at the time. But I kid. But to know that Jackson has such a vibrant club scene, and I've got a 20-year-old daughter now, and they like to go out and they like to party and have fun, and she gets it honestly. And to know that they don't really have anything.
It's sad now.
I mean, I know there's some places, and I don't want to talk bad about anywhere, but they're not clubs. In the tradition of black walls, black ceiling, intense light show,
mirrors,
bass hits so hard that you can't breathe, dancing cages.
Yep, light shows.
Yeah, I mean, like a club, not a reservoir lounge,
right.
With
a bar music. Trying to be a club.
Yeah, because that never worked either. In Jackson, you couldn't be both. Like me and Chip, when we owned bars together, Chip had an infatuation with. We pay rent 7 days a week. We need to try to figure out a way to be open 7 days a week. Yeah, there's a story about Chip trying to open for lunch at the Edge.
Right.
Yeah. And I always got a kick out of that because that was my experience with Chip. And not knocking Chip here, but it was always hard. You got to kind of pick your lane and be really good at that. Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Thursday and Saturday were quote unquote college night.
Yep.
Friday night, ladies night, or Wednesday night, ladies night. But Friday was like you always had to try to shoehorn. Okay, we can't get the same crowd out here on back-to-back nights, so maybe we'll do a band or karaoke. It was always what do we do with Friday nights?
Yep, yeah, Friday nights was a tough night for sure.
And that's weird because as I've gotten older, Friday's the night that it's like I'm as motivated to do something on Fridays as anything because it's like I've worked all week or whatever the case may be. Saturdays I may. I guess I can say this on the radio. I may get into the salsa a little early on a Saturday and not want to do anything Saturday night. But, Fridays, you can pace yourself.
Yeah, well, I think then, we were recovering from our quarter pitcher nights at Inez's. And then
on Thursdays,
on Thursdays. And then Friday recovered, and then Saturday went back out again.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, I stole the quarter pitcher idea from Inez and Chip and that whole bunch. I mean, it was a Jackson tradition, quarter pitchers on Thursday nights. And I think Chip and them did nickel beer at the Edge on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights or something. And so people always say, man, how did you do quarter pitchers? Well, it's only kegs. They were set. A keg of Bud Light at the time was $76, and $20 for a deposit on the keg.
Right.
But so you're all in $100, and once you got into the cycle of having the empty kegs, anyway, so you just charge it to the door. Enough people, 20 people come in at $5 a head. Well, you've paid for your keg, and then you're only doing like 2 kegs, 3 kegs at the most, depending on how. I mean, I'd give away 10 kegs if we got enough people in there by 11 o'clock to pay for 10 kegs, because then they're going to stay and they're going to drink at $4 a beer. Well, I learned. Miss Inez told me about the $4. She don't do 4, do 3. Then every 2 beers they can buy another one. You'll sell more. It's the Walmart philosophy.
There you go.
Or they got $2 to tip your bartender, and it keeps them from stealing from you if they're making good money. And kind of taught me the minutia of all that. All right, look, let's take a break real quick. We're listening to the Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined in the studio by Jayce Powell, Alderman at Large out there in Gluckstadt, business owner of Bicycle Revolution and Lucky Town Skate Shop, and I keep saying former club DJ, but he's a DJ, DJ Trix. And we'll talk about all that stuff. We'd love to hear from you guys, man. If we've churned up any old memories, you want to jump in the DeLorean with us and go back in time, the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line is 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. And we've got some text. I will read them when we come back from the break on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. We almost broke a rule right there. Just talk straight through the intro there. Look, I'm joined in the studio by Jayce Powell. This segment is going to be brought to you. How about we pick a Gluckstadt business in honor of having Alderman At Large in studio? Well, let's go with Guns and Gear, located right there on Highway 51. I guess technically that's Madison, but
no, they're Gluckstadt.
Is that Gluckstadt?
They're in Gluckstadt.
Okay.
Yeah, Hunter's a great guy. Their team over there.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Let me tweak that on my notes here. Gluckstadt.
A lot of businesses before we officially became the city of Gluckstadt, it said Madison and such. But when we opened with Bicycle Revolution, we made sure we put Gluckstadt on our shirts. And when we went to trial for the incorporation hearing, that was a lot of stuff that we talked about was, Gluckstadt has its own. Gluckstadt's its own community. Yeah, and so that's one thing that we push.
Well, I grew up in Byram. Well, that area, South Jackson to Byram, move one neighborhood over, you're in Jackson. Move one neighborhood over, you're in Byram, and then Byram gave our neighborhood to Jackson when Byram incorporated. So I lived through the whole incorporation thing. Kind of had a front row seat for it when Byram went through this whole thing, and Byram was its own community, and it did not want to be called Jackson,
right?
And still doesn't, for that matter. So it is unique, and I think it's my first club that I owned without an outside partner was in Byram. It was Crazy 8.
Oh yeah.
So I get the whole, you want to say Gluckstadt. I don't want to say Jackson or Madison or Ridgeland or whatever the case may be. No knock on any of those cities, but
not at all. We're Gluckstadt then.
You're Gluckstadt. All right, we were talking during the break, and I was working my way to it. Yeah, we definitely hit it now. Let's talk about the Midnight Sun.
Oh yeah,
because I think that's to me that's the first booty shaking college night. It was the blueprint for everything I did. Well, that and Inez's.
Yeah, Inez's to me would be the first, but
Inez's would be the first. But my first club I ever went in was Midnight Sun. So even a little bit more above from a mystique level. There's the Midnight Sun, because it was short-lived. I mean, it wasn't something that lasted a long time. It was about 3 years, I guess, and maybe it was
about the typical cycle.
Yeah, but they had Hootie and the Blowfish played there, and Better Than Ezra, and all these bands that were kind of coming through that ended up being huge in the 90s. I mean, I know a lot of people have an infatuation with WC Dons because REM played there or whatever, but that was never my thing. But Midnight Sun and some of these other bands that had a lot of mainstream success played there coming up, and Dirty D was the DJ.
Dirty D, what's up?
And I tell you, we got a call here from our buddy Derek on the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line. Let's see what he's got to say. Hey, Derek, you're on there, brother.
Hey, quick question. Now, when you said Midnight Sun, was that a band or a name of a club?
Midnight Sun was the name of the club. It was right there on the corner of Capitol and Gallatin, where Capitol
is right next to
Iron Horse.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just say right there next to Iron Horse.
There was a Midnight Sun in Meridian, and the club had a really good concept, and I was wondering were they affiliated.
They weren't. So. They weren't. But I do. The logos are very similar. I saw that the Meridian folks may have borrowed from the Jackson folks, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I don't believe they were affiliated.
I mean, when I heard it, I'm like, I got a little bit of nostalgia because, late 80s, early 90s was the best era ever, of course. And Midnight Sun was a good place to go to. It wasn't rowdy. They played nice music. They had a techno night. That's when the techno thing started to be a big deal with the mismatch of different music and with a techno beat. It was a real good club. So when I heard Midnight Sun, I just had to ask that question. My apologies.
No, all good, brother. I appreciate you calling in this morning. We can go from politics to music around here real quick. And I think every now and then you got to kind of hit the release valve and have a little fun. I love the nostalgia stuff, so I'm all for talking about this kind of stuff.
But Clay, if you can guess it, you being a club guy, what killed techno music?
I don't know that anything did. It's more popular than ever. It's just evolved into this dubstep and
Trap.
And the trap and all that. I mean, what's called electronic music is bigger than it's ever been, but it's never going to be mainstream radio music in America.
Because, it was on the radio for a while. I know they used to play it religiously on the coast, on the Monkey radio station down the coast. And I know you had techno clubs everywhere. So, but that one made, I got a little bit nostalgic this morning when I heard you say Midnight Sun. You guys have a good one.
Thank you, Derek. You too. All right, let's take another call here real quick on the Matt Kike of Flowwood phone line. Hey, caller, you're on there.
Do y'all remember, I know this is a little bit further north, but I know you're a state fan. Do you remember the Hunt Club in Starkville?
Oh, yeah, look, man, I forget the guy's name that owned all that, but, I booked I booked Three Doors Down up there for him, 12 Stones, Papa Roach. We worked together a lot up there on the Hunt Club stuff.
That thing was an old Walmart that they made a club out of.
Yep. Like I said, he passed away a couple of years ago. His name eludes me. But
he had a place in Columbus. I think he had a place in Tuscaloosa, too. It was called Big Coon, as I believe.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Yeah, man, that was an awesome deal.
Hey, Clay, what killed that business? Because I knew a guy that played with Splendid Chaos, and I was talking to him one day, and he said no matter where they went, because this is probably 2010, 2011, me and him were talking. I said, man, ain't nobody here. He said, this is like that all over the country, no matter where we go. Did the financial crisis pretty much kill that business to a degree?
I think social media killed the club business because a lot of people were going to hook up, and the second you could start fishing from the house, I believe that killed the club business. And then in Jackson's, like in markets like Jackson, where it's violent and whatnot, it plays a toll. People moved further and further away from city centers like Jackson. We'll use Gluckstadt as an example since we've got a Gluckstadt guy in the studio. There ain't going to be no clubs in Gluckstadt, and a lot of other areas have zoning laws where you couldn't put clubs because like Ridgeland, and with the exception of resort status areas, they got to be closed at midnight. You got to have 70% of your sales has to be food, 40%, whatever it is. There was all these little. That's where everybody always asks, why are the clubs always in Jackson and not why ain't they one in Pearl or why ain't they one here? Zoning laws didn't permit it.
It's called Southern Baptist.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but it's true. I'm one of them, but not like that. But
same here.
Are college towns like that too?
College clubs?
Yeah, are they in existence or just a bunch of small town bars?
Man, they're still rocking and rolling. They're still, like in Oxford and Starkville. I know the library in Oxford is still rocking and rolling. Rick's in Starkville is still going. But it's, they've had to evolve. I don't know what the music scene is like at those concerning DJs, but I know that they still have all the bands come through and all that.
That's just like concerts in general. I mean, for years, Jackson didn't have any concerts. All the good concerts were on the coast or Tunica or Memphis. Is it because, but yet you go to I think what holds a lot of people down from going to certain concerts, just, that, like these amphitheaters, like at the Wharf in Orange Beach and the Brandon Amphitheater, it's too damn hot. I mean, are filling up bigger venues, are them days over with?
I think so. I don't think especially somewhere like Jackson. Jackson always lacked a mid-sized venue. That's why we always try to shoehorn these huge rock bands into these small nightclubs, because there wasn't a 3,000-seat venue to do them in. Thagamar Hall wasn't feasible, and it cost too much to do it. Mm-hmm. And there was never, like a big club, with the exception of rodeos in that building. But, man, I think the days of – and also rock music, and I know we're bouncing around a little bit here, rock music hit a big decline. And hip-hop took a huge incline, and hip-hop live shows suck for the most part. I mean, they're terrible. They're just a big karaoke.
My dad's got a cousin named Mike Alsop. He's really guitarist Jeremiah was a Bullfrog. Who sung that song?
I'm not sure, but go. I know the song, but I can't tell you. Yeah,
Three Dog Night. He told me that they would never play the Mississippi Coliseum again because it was a dump when they played it 20 years before, and it was still a dump, and that was probably 2001, 2002.
Yeah, the last rock show I went to at the Coliseum was Stained and 3 Days Grace, and I think POD opened up, and I think there were 1,500, 2,000 people showed up for that show. I was like, this is the last rock concert you'll ever see in this.
They had that Crawfish Bowl there years ago, and they had 3 doors down. They had a few rappers there, and it seemed like it did pretty good.
It did, but it cost a lot of money to do those events, and it may look packed.
Jubilee Jam used to bring in a lot of people, I thought.
Yeah, and Jubilee Jam was subsidized, by the city and by the Arts Commission and whatnot. And then they sold Jubilee Jam to a promoter. It went bankrupt. I know some guys that have a lawsuit against the Jubilee Jam name or the entity, and if they ever use that name again, they're gonna have to pay them money for the lawsuit. So,
I just always thought it was too hot to have it in the middle of summer.
Well, it always rained. I always did it in May there,
That's true.
And it always rained.
Yep.
All right, brother, we got to go.
Have a good day.
I appreciate it. Now I can go to a whole nother conversation of that type stuff. I'll tell you what, let's take a break real quick. We'll come back. We'll land the first hour. You're listening to the Clay Edwards Show, joined by Jayce Powell. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. This last segment of the first hour is going to be brought to you by Lakeland Glass and Tint, where quality matters, right over there on Lakeland Drive in Flowood. If you need your home, car, or business windows tinted, Lakeland Glass and Tint's got you covered. If you need your windshield replaced, Lakeland Glass and Tint's got you covered. And if you need your vehicle wrapped, Lakeland Glass and Tint's got you covered. You may see their new building over there on Flowood Drive. It's called LGT, just the abbreviated. That's Lakeland Glass and Tint. Stop in, tell Jason Anderson and the team that you heard it on the Clay Edwards Show. Jason Anderson, another club DJ.
DJ Yuri, what's up?
DJ Yuri. Yeah, absolutely. I texted him the other night. We were talking about something the other night, and I told him, I said, hey, Jayce is going to be on the show, and make sure you tune in. And, another guy that's still doing it as a business owner, still doing his thing. And, man, I just love that. And for me, it was getting into the podcasting and the radio stuff because I still wanted to find a way to connect to people. That's the thing I love doing, is kind of connecting to people and being able to have these kind of conversations. And y'all guys, you get up there and y'all play to hundreds and thousands of people. I mean, you did the Flowood Family Fest.
Man, that was so much fun. There were so many people out there.
Like it's been a long time. 10,000 people, something like that.
It's been a long time since I've seen. I don't know that I've ever seen that many people, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. We had a great time.
Who did you open for? Clint Black?
Clint Black and Diamond Rio. So we did, as a DJ, I'm open to all types of music.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of country and did some punk rock and stuff. But I finished it with an old Miami bass group, KMC crew.
Yeah.
They did a remix of "The Devil Went Down to Michigan," or actually went up to Michigan.
Yeah.
And so it's a scratch remix of the Charlie Daniels band. And so
I bet that went over well.
It actually really did. Everybody's clapping because that was the last song we played, and I was scratching along to it and everything. And it was like, well, we're finished and everything, and we got a good ovation for it. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Did you headline after Clint Black, too?
We did not. Clint Black had his own little... initially, I thought we were going to do after Diamond Rio again, another set. But Clint Black had his own little deal that...
got a pre-show.
Yeah. Showing a bunch of video and songs and stuff. So.
Well, a lot of these big country acts, especially these newer style guys like your Jason Aldeans of the world and Luke Bryan and those guys, they travel with DJs to keep the party going the whole time. They want it to be like a party.
Sure.
And I dig that. Like DJ Silver, I think is one of their names, and some other guys. So that's pretty cool. I think anytime you can have that, I don't want to call it filler music, but you're filling the time between the bands and all that, especially at something like a Flowood Family Day or German Fest or whatever the case may be. It's always a good thing. All right, look, man, we are bumped up out of time here on the first hour. You're listening to the Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB after the break, after the top of the hour news here. So let's see what we can get mad about, and we'll be right back. That's right, award-winning podcaster. When your enemies give you an award, you know you're doing something right. I won that from the Jackson Free Press.
That's right. There you go.
They quit doing the best podcast after I won it. It was no longer a category the following year.
Wow.
It was the award show that year was 2020, and so of course COVIDaholics, they weren't going to do a show, so they did this digital. Where you send them a video acceptance, because I wanted to do it and call a bunch of people out. I was going to have one of those woke award show things where I called people out and this, that, and the other. Anyway, I digress. But I sent them my video. I was wearing a mega hat, and I was like, "Really, me? I won."
They didn't go for it, did they?
They didn't. They did not play my video. So anyway, welcome into the Clay Edwards Show. We are live here on 103.9 WYAB. This segment is going to be brought to you by, how about Miss Kimberly Harrelson over there at Next Home Realty? Look, are you listing, selling, or buying a home? It's easier than you may think. In fact, it's just a click away when you work with Kimberly Harrelson at Next Home Realty. If you're looking to move to or from the Jackson area, to Gluckstadt in particular, give Kimberly a call. She will get you going. You can find her on Facebook. Just go search Kimberly Harrelson at Next Home Realty, KIMBERLEE. Her website is KimberlySalesMS.com. All right, man, I'm joined in studio by Jayce Powell. He's an Alderman at Large in Gluckstadt. He is proprietor of Bicycle Revolution and Lucky Town Skate Shop up there in Gluckstadt. And he's been a DJ for 30-some-odd years, a dance DJ, a hip-hop DJ, the whole nine yards. And we're just having a good time this morning going down memory lane and whatnot. And we were talking so we've been talking about the rise and fall and continued fall of nightclubs. And he brought up something during the break. So, one of the other things, is damn South Jackson boys coming in there fighting all the time was not good for business. And I'm like, I feel attacked. But he's 100% right, man. Me and Bucky and Chris, and I can a whole laundry list of people, man. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys are no longer with us. But yeah, man, we would go to the Catwalk and we'd be falling down the stairs fighting.
Oh yeah,
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. People don't like to go to a club and you're having fights all the time. And
see, we felt differently. We thought that people did. Like, we were the entertainment for the night.
No doubt. No, they wanted to dance and have the DJ, but yeah, it definitely affected. With those folks coming in and starting fights, and it was not conducive for a good club environment.
No, because inevitably it gets shut down. I don't know what it is. I guess it's alcohol. It's alcohol and machismo.
Being young and
because it ain't changed. You go to a club today and you're still going to have fights. I don't care if it's, I don't want to name any, but the one out there on the reservoir everybody goes to, there's still fights. It doesn't matter. All right, let's see here. Derek's calling back on the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line. Hey, Derek, you're on there.
Clay, I had to remind you one more thing. We can't talk about clubs without bringing up the dock.
Oh yeah, man. The dock was its own thing. It was often imitated, never duplicated. Mm-mm. It was its own unique deal. You could go hear the same band 3 nights in a row, and nobody else was able to pull that off.
Yep.
But you know what its downfall was, right? Was all the fights and stuff, and people of the Reds, raised Cain about it. And they closed it down. Only they closed it down, they tore it down.
Yeah, and they're just now getting around to doing something with that property. Mm. What actually happens, I still don't know, but they're building new boat slips out there, if nothing else.
Well, at one time they were going to put a waterfront hotel right there, remember?
Oh, yeah. It was going to be nice, a harbor walk.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to that, but I just wanted to put that on your discussion plate.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to the dock, so I appreciate that, brother.
Uh-huh.
All right, have a good one. Yeah, man, I've told this story on here a few times about the dock, but I've worked for Capital City Beverage before I was 21 it was called the draft truck, and they had one truck that just ran the bars. Okay. And a guy named Jim King was the driver of the draft truck. And we hit every bar and restaurant in town for Coors. It was before they bought United and added Miller Lite, so it was Coors and all the malt liquors and wine coolers basically. So we hit all those, and Renee at the dock was like, well, you need a dock VIP card, I was like, okay. Well, I had a fake ID, a guy named Jamie Bradley. I took his stuff and got a fake ID made with it. That's back when you could still take somebody's birth certificate and social to the Highway Patrol and get a real fake ID. And my grandmother worked in the Highway Patrol at the time, like in the office right off to the side of where you got the license made. And I was so scared she was going to come out and be like, this is my grandson, Clay. But the driver's license says Jamie on it.
Not good.
I came this close. Millimeters from getting in trouble. But so anyway, when I was at the dock, I showed them my fake ID because you had to be 21 to get in. I wasn't 21. Mm-hmm. So I had this fake ID with my picture and Jamie's information. But the funny thing is Jamie was banned from the dock. So every time I'd come in, they would see the name and they would look at me and see the name and look at me. I'm like, something don't seem right. So my 21st birthday, we go out there and I use my ID. And they put it all together pretty quick. They give me that dang VIP card. Get in there and behave.
That's awesome.
So that's my dock story. But we always had more fun at the dock. That really wasn't my crowd though, because being from South Jackson and early 20s, that wasn't the dock crowd. But it was when we got into the boat, having a boat. Then the dock was my crowd. It became my crowd real quick.
Yeah, to me, the dock was always more of a bar than a nightclub. I mean, you had the Millennium or whatever it was across the street. It was more of the dance club type. But it was still a fun place to go to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And they ran a tight ship out there. I mean, stuff happened. I mean, but stuff happens everywhere.
Everywhere.
So that was fun. All right, so we've hit Midnight Sun and Inez's. Those were great. So I got into business around 99. You were not in the business around here at that point.
I was not. I was in Hasburg at that point. So, the Midnight Sun, by far, to me, was the Studio 54 of Jackson. Most fun club I've ever worked at.
What was the name of it?
The Midnight Sun.
Oh, okay,
I'm just saying, it was like, to me, it was like the Studio 54 of Jackson. I mean, it's just anything happened. It was a lot of fun. I mean, you have tons of people coming from Arkansas, Louisiana, everywhere to come to the Midnight Sun. You had Dirty D, you had Dr. John, and eventually they allowed me to come in. So we had 3 DJs with all 3 different tastes that, rotated through. So a lot of fun. And then from there we went to the Catwalk. The Catwalk was a lot of fun until we started getting fights and everything. And
well, it was always so cool that I ended up getting to own that. To me, I got to say I own the Catwalk. That may not mean nothing to too many people. I mean, hell, 105 lasted longer than the Catwalk did.
Right.
As an entity. But it was still the fact that I was like, man, I get to be in the Catwalk.
That's right. Well, to answer your question, though, I guess to be Debbie Downer for a second, there is what I call a dark side to being a club DJ or being in the club scene. When I first got into it, I may drink a little bit or whatever, but I didn't really do anything else. So by the time 96, 97 rolled around, I then got off in drugs pretty good, doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And it wasn't necessarily about the music, and it wasn't about the DJing anymore. It was about the drugs. And so it was pretty much around 97, it was kind of a downward spiral for me. Not the most fun of my time.
No, and, I was there, man. It did the same thing to me in the mid-2000s.
Yep. So 96, 97. So at that point, I kind of backed off from the DJ and just kind of reevaluated life. Thankful for my parents and friends that were there to support me and to kind of clean my act up a little bit. I started dating a girl at that time and ended up moving to Hasburg, I guess around 98. And so kind of things really changed. That's like with the bike shop that we have now. In 98, I don't know if you ever met Sammy Rutherford. He was my running partner. If you saw us at Inez's, the Catwalk, the Midnight Sun, anywhere, Sammy and I were always together. He is my best friend, still is, and we ran together. Well, anyway, I moved to Hasburg in 98, and he was living in Hasburg, and he kind of, I came from a running soccer background as well, blew my knee out. Long story, got a bicycle, and that's kind of where it all began for the bicycle part. So from 98 to about 2001, I was in Hasburg, so I kind of missed what was happening in Jackson at that point. But the fun part was I met a lot of cool people in Hasburg. Will Williams, who went by Longwood Gambala, Harry Crump, who owns T-Bones Records there in Hasburg. I mean, they had several different bands. They did a lot of jazz, like fusion type music that they incorporated.
That's where
DJs
Afro Man
into.
got his start too.
Afro Man, we hung out with Afro Man all the time, like in 2000s. The house parties that we were going to, Afro Man was there hanging out with us and everything. So it was a really neat time, and a good chance to reevaluate, and got back into DJing at that point too. Never really got out of it. I mean, I still, my upstairs at my house, I've got 2 1200s, I've got the Rain 12s, I got a couple thousand records. I mean, my upstairs is a DJ studio.
Tell you what, let's take a call real quick. We got, I think we got Cy on hold here. Hey, Cy, you on there?
Hey guys, how are y'all doing this morning?
How's it going?
Good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I just wanted to call and show a little support for a fellow Gluckstadt business owner, and just kind of remind everybody out there to support local businesses as much as you can. I'm actually going to come and visit the skate shop actually this week with my son, because we were actually in the attic a few days ago, and he opened up a box, and my Tony Hawk Claw deck was actually in there, and he looked at it. He had no idea what it was. He'd never seen a skateboard before, and he asked what it was. I said, you know what? I know exactly where I'm going to take you this week. So I just wanted to voice that. I'm going to come see a local business this week and tell everybody else they need to as well.
Well, hey, tell everybody how they can support you.
Well, if y'all got some laundry you want done or whatever, by all means, bring it to the Lost Sock. We will definitely take care of it for you. But please, just whether it's us or just anybody local, just please help us out because I mean we have dipped and dived and twisted and ballerine somersaulted to try to stay in business like everybody else, and just please show us some love. And we're going to definitely go into try to show my son exactly what a Tony Hawk Claw actually looks like. So definitely get some business to somebody else.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys being there in Gluckstadt and for all that y'all do. And you'd be surprised that deck. If it's an original deck, you could probably sell it and probably about 4 or 5 skateboards what they go for nowadays.
Really, I'm actually
get online.
Look
a lot
into
of those
that.
old school boards.
I couldn't. If I just look at it, I'll probably pull a hamstring just looking at it because I can't do that kind of stuff anymore. But I want to get my son into it actually, and I think a lot of people need to look into getting their children into that because I mean it's coming back, man, and I'm actually thrilled that y'all are doing that here in Gluckstadt because seriously, it's coming back and people need to come and see y'all. I definitely have heard some good things about you for sure.
Well, we appreciate it.
Cool. Si, appreciate you, brother. Y'all get out there, support the Lost Sock. Great locally owned business by a great local dude and his family, man. Tell your wife we said hello, and hopefully we'll see y'all soon.
Absolutely, man. Y'all take care. Have a good day.
You too, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, to the skateboard thing real quick before we take a break.
Sure.
That opens up a whole nother avenue of business because, bicycling and skateboard, not the same thing, obviously. Mm-mm. And I mean, and the skateboarding stuff can't take up a whole lot of space.
It doesn't.
You kind of have your display stuff and store in the back, however you do that. But I think that is a great gateway to get more people into the shop. Are y'all still doing Taco Tuesday?
Yeah, man. So we've got the Feed Zone Cafe as well inside. So we've got Taco Tuesdays. In my opinion, the best tacos in town.
They are great.
On Tuesdays. And then Wednesday through Saturday, we do paninis. So food's really good. My partner, Jeremy, he was a chef in a previous life. And so he kind of does all of our recipes. And it's worked out quite well for us. And this day and time, you have to have a niche. And you can't just be, in my opinion, just trying to focus on one thing. So that's why we do the food. People like to drink. They like to eat. We have races on TV, football games, whatever.
We got draft beer in there,
Draft beer and everything. And then, of course, with the skate stuff, I mean, Jeremy's an old school skater. I'm an old school skater. So it's just a natural progression for us to do.
Well, it's such a cool conversation starter, too, right? It's like wearing a cool T-shirt or a retro T-shirt. People come in. And I know, like I told you, I'm going to buy some decks, but they're simply to hang on the wall because I like the throwback, the memories, stuff like that. I'm sure that they have started as many conversations from guys like us, like, oh, man, I used to want that, or I had that deck when I was young, or dude, that was my favorite skater. I was a Christian Hosoi guy, or a Tony Hawk guy, or a Caballero, or the Vision, the what was it called? The funny stick or the
whoop? Yeah, they had a Psycho stick.
Psycho stick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cement sticks. So all those brands.
The Vision Streetwear. That logo is iconic.
Iconic, man. I still wish I had my shoes. That was my favorite pair of those Vision Streetwears. Had some bright blue high tops I used to wear skating, and man, I wish I still had those.
Man, I just like a hoodie with the Vision, or a T-shirt with the Vision logo. The shoes were great. All right, look, let's take a break real quick. Listen to the Clay Edwards Show, joined in studio by Jayce Powell. We're taking a trip down memory lane today and talking about all things Gluckstadt too. So give us a call, 601-879-0002, and you can be a part of the show. We'll be right back. Breaking rules when necessary. Man, we were sitting here talking during the break. I'm joined by Jayce Powell. And we're talking during the break about the racial part of being a white hip hop fan, and how some people will tell you that you can't be involved in hip hop because you're white. And my clubs were majority black most of the time, playing all hip hop music. So I always thought, why would you alienate anybody over the racial side of things? And we were just talking about how punk and hip hop, punk music and stuff, and hip hop were really very similar. Not the type of music, but the way the audiences were shunned by venues and everybody.
Yep. Yeah, because in the late 70s, early 80s, that's when punk really evolved, and that's also when hip-hop really evolved. And, those venues didn't want hip-hop artists. They didn't want punk artists there. And so, they played at each other's venues. I mean, you look at African Bambaataa and some of those guys, the styles that they took, with those punk rock looking and just crazy wild outfits and everything. So yeah, they definitely correlate. Blondie, with the song Rapture, I mean, she met Fab Five Freddy and Grandmaster Flash and fell in love with those guys and what they were doing. And they wrote the song Rapture, and she gave a shout out to him in the song about it. So, it's, man, punk and hip hop are intermingled and will always be intermingled no matter what anybody says.
Well, so it's subcultures.
Right.
You and then you throw in the evolution of electronic music in America and whatnot. I was telling you about a documentary I'd watched about Coachella, the big music festival, how that whole thing came about, and how the production company that started doing these punk shows, and it was just right on point of what you were saying. It was the promoters, and in big cities like Los Angeles, one club can have 5 different names depending on what night of the week it is and who the promoter is. And none of those names actually be on the building.
Oh, wow.
Because it could be like a theater, like the El Rey Theater or something like that. They could be Cherry Night or Roxy Night, or they could be the Roxy or whatever. Anyway, but different promoters would do different stuff. And this one promoter in L.A. was doing like early punk stuff, your Suicide, and then your, I don't even know what you would call Suicidal Tendencies, but bands like
skate
that.
Punk.
Yeah.
One of my favorite all-time bands. So they're definitely skate punk.
Yeah.
And then cross over to metal, so.
Yeah, I saw them open up for Queensryche at the Jackson Coliseum.
Awesome.
And I guess that would have been 88, 89.
88, 89, yep. I wanted to go to that show, and we're building a motor for my truck. And my dad's like, well, you can choose the motor for your truck, or you can go see Suicidal Tendencies. As much as I want to go see Suicidal Tendencies, I had to finish the motor for my truck. So
that was when I first started. My mom started letting me go to concerts, and so she would ask me who the bands were and this, that, and the other. And I did not want her to know that one of the bands was called Suicidal Tendencies, but I think she saw the flyer. She said, "You're not going to see anything about suicide." Da, 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 da. I was like, "Oh, I got to go." Long story short, but it was touch and go there for a little bit. But but so they would do, this promoter would do bands like Suicidal Tendencies, and then the Beastie Boys in the early days,
right?
And these hip hop groups, Cypress Hill,
sure,
and stuff coming out of L.A. and Snoop Dogg and I mean, could you imagine having been in a music mecca, take all the politics and everything we think about stuff now, and go back to being 17, 18 years old, or you'd have been in your early 20s when all this starts to blow up, and all that great West Coast hip hop and rock and stuff that came out of that era, to be able to see those people coming up. I mean, because we didn't really have that here. I mean, we had great local bands, and I'm not knocking anybody, but there wasn't really a next level for those bands, just based on, it's pre-internet. You can blow up from anywhere now.
Oh, yeah.
But then you had to be in the Mecca. I mean, to be able to see those guys, some of those people coming up. And again, other thing, we didn't have that mid-sized venue.
Right.
For these tours and stuff to come through. I love going back and watching those documentaries, because a lot of times, because of MTV, somebody would end up on MTV, and next thing you know, they were straight to selling arenas out.
Oh, yeah.
There was no watching a band grow. There's some cool video online. Pantera never played Jackson as megastars, but they played Jackson a lot at the Town Creek.
Okay.
And there's a whole video about them traveling like from New Orleans to Memphis or somewhere, and they stopped, spent a couple of days in Jackson, played the Creek, and but Pantera's got a lot of history in Jackson.
No doubt.
But if you only know Pantera from Cowboys from Hell forward, you wouldn't know that they had any history in Jackson. But a lot of family member type people here.
Sure.
But anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but that's what we do here.
That's right.
So you come back to Jackson when?
I moved back to Jackson around 2001. So, moved back, at that time I was working for the Gap. And so moved back as a store manager for Gap Kids at North Park Mall. So doing the good old retail. But anyway, it got me back home, and, I started doing DJing again when I was in Hasburg, and so kind of somewhat got back into it in the Jackson area. I never really got back into doing the clubs again. I think we were talking earlier. I tried 105 for a split second, and it just wasn't my thing, getting back in the clubs. It was getting around that same atmosphere that I was before, and just didn't want to be involved with that again.
I got back in the club business after about a 5-year hiatus in 2014-15 with 110.
Okay.
And we did a couple of really big parties, a couple of really big concerts, but I realized real quick that my past addictions were going to sneak up on me, and did in some cases. And having to be, after being unplugged from that for a long time, I decided real quick that it wasn't for me.
Sure.
Or it decided for me. It wasn't for me, however you want to look at it. But it's like that is a different animal.
Yep. Well, so I did a lot more with got into doing the weddings, got into doing school dances, which The hours were a lot better. The pay was way better.
Yeah,
So, as a nightclub DJ, especially in the 90s, you didn't get paid much of anything. You're barely able. You had to have another job to get survive.
When are you going to play Monkey Swing?
No doubt.
Back
or the
that
electric
thing up.
slide. So that was always, I remember at the Catwalk, somebody's like, can you play the electric slide? I was like, I literally just played it 2 songs ago. They're like, can you play it? And I'm like, it's broken. They're like, you just played it. I'm like, I took the record out and I literally broke it on my knee and sent it out the window. I was like, it's broken. I was just so tired of the electric slide and, some of that kind of stuff. But, as a DJ, you're also there to play to the crowd. So I guess maybe that wasn't the best attitude to have, but it is what it was.
What I hated about some DJs is, I won't name any names, but they, some of them were obsessed with seeing how many songs they could play a night, so they would shorten songs to like 2 minutes and then fade into the next song. I'm like, I need to hear the hook again. Can we please quit trying to play 300 songs a night?
Right.
And, to play the whole song or at least the better part of the songs. In the black DJ culture, that is a epidemic.
Sure. Well, I think that goes with doing the tricks and the scratching. In the early 90s, as a hip-hop artist, you wanted to hear, okay, what was the DJ going to do? Or even in the late 80s, what's the DJ going to do with my song? How's he going to, trick it out and do this with it and do that with it? So I think that it's just part of the culture with it. But yeah, I agree with you. I like hearing the songs, so especially if you're dancing. It depends on the show that you're doing. If you're out there wanting to dance, you want to hear the song.
What's that DJ group, man, that's got 4 or 5 guys on stage? They won the DMC championships a bunch.
Is it the Invisible Scratch with DJ Qbert? Invisible Scratch. I can't think of the last part of it.
It's like four or five guys on stage, and they're just going at it, man. I saw them at Freak Fest, the rave they had at State Palace Theater back in the day. Nice. That was a really cool party, man. So you have 2 Live Crew, like Carl Cox. I want to say that's who it was. It was just EPMD,
right? Oh, man.
And some other what was that? It Takes Two to Make a Thing.
Rob Bass and
Rob Bass. Yeah, and not DJ Icy. Maybe DJ Icy was there too. But anyway, it was just hodgepodge of hip hop and techno. And that was just one of the coolest things. Oh, yeah. But you were talking about the scratching. That's what made me think about it. Because right. I would like go watch a DJ do his thing.
Sure.
It's cool to me. Take the dancing and stuff aside, but it would sit there and watch somebody on turntables really do their thing.
Oh yeah.
That is real. That's just working the fader and the mixer and everything. It is art.
It is. Well, one of my other mentors is a gentleman named
Executioners.
The Executioners.
So that's who it was. It was the Executioners. Thank you on the Guns and Gear text line.
Charles Falk, I can remember walking into Inez one night. It's early before everybody got there, and he's like, "Watch this!" And he put some DJ Magic Mike on, and then he started scratching behind it, and I was just like, "Oh man, you gotta show me how to do this. I gotta do this." So I love it.
Man, look, that DJ Magic Mike, Munchies for your bass. No, yeah. Was that DJ Magic?
Oh yeah,
was that Magic? Yeah, Munchies for your bass and all that stuff. We got a text from Reddy Teddy on the Guns and Gear text line. Says, "I don't think the nightclub age group of people would even go to nightclubs now because they are digitally connected and not really so much connected in person." Well, look, and at the end of the day, too, we grow up.
We do.
You get other commitments and families and stuff. But I would be game for, and we talked about this, putting together a throwback night somewhere.
Sure. We did pre-COVID once a year. We did what we call the old school throwdown. So it's about 5 or 6 DJs. We all DJ'd in late 80s, 90s. DJ Tam, Tam.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was one of them. Charles Falk, myself, buddy of mine, David Bates, Scott Swarner. We've had some guys from New Orleans come in.
Scott Swarner, I hadn't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, Scott. So, man, he loves some breaks, does an excellent job. But anyway, we would do, each DJ plays an hour, and we'd pack the place out, have a good time, and just listen to old 80s, 90s, 2000s music and dance. And that's what it was about. It was about the dancing and the camaraderie. Going back to what he said on the text message, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I was doing some shows with DJ Roz at Hal Mal's and such. And you could definitely see where the culture had changed a lot. You had a lot of folks that stood up at the stage watching us. And I was like, this is kind of weird. Don't watch me, just go dance. You did have some people dancing, and you had other people who were just on their phones, hanging out and everything. So the club culture has changed a lot.
Well, the people being buried in their phones is a issue in everything. But in clubs especially, you're there with people.
Right.
To hang out with people and socialize. It's a social event.
put social media down for a minute. And I'm talking to myself too. I'm guilty of it too. I mean, whether I'm at a restaurant, a table full of people, we're all checking our phones and stuff.
Sure.
You know, I've seen where people will do these dinner parties and stuff, and you got to put your phone in the table.
Right.
I mean, not in the table, in a bowl or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like first person that grabs their phone has to pay for dinner or something like that.
Well, last night my phone died on the way to eat, and my wife's like, "What are you going to do now at dinner?" I was like, "I guess we're just going to talk the whole time."
I was listening to this podcast. I love podcasts, just listening to people have conversations. And Jelly Roll was doing a podcast with, I can't remember the guy's name, big hip hop head dude, but I'll remember in a second. He asked you, man, are you really appreciating the moment that you're in right now after having struggled as an independent artist for so long to be selling out these massive venues and this, that, and the other? And he said, man, we played a Welcome to Rockville, big festival down in Florida last week. He said, I handed my phone to my tour manager, buddy, assistant, whatever. He says, only give it to me if my wife or kids call. He was like, I'm trying to absorb every second of this because 15, 20 years, putting 20 people in a club, just doing it because I love doing it. Now selling out festivals and arenas and this, that, and the other. He's like, I want to live in the moment.
Sure.
And know it. But he told the story about handing his phone to somebody so he could enjoy the moment and remember it. I thought that was really cool.
That's cool.
All right, let's take a break real quick. You listen to the Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined in studio by Jayce Powell, and we'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB.
Yeah, 1990 quad, 69 boys backed up by the quad city DJ. One time, cotton candy, sweet and gold. Let me see the
Tootsie Roll.
We're going to be dancing up in here.
Now, look, that's a little 95. That's 69 Boys Tootsie Roll there. That song, if I had to say there was one definitive song of my club going, not club owning days, of like going to Inez's and Catwalk and all those clubs, the Groove,
right,
and all that stuff. To me, that would be the Depot, Mothers. That would be the definitive booty music song.
Amen. Yep.
I think it's that. Then Come On Ride That Train, which I was never that big of a fan of that, but the girls liked it.
Oh yeah.
What's Cat Williams? His skit about I don't like satin sheets and satin pillows, and girls do. He used another word.
That's right.
Chicks do. Like absolutely, man. Chicks dig it. We dug it.
Yeah, we did dig it.
What would you say is the song that you have played more than any other song? Most requested, number one, however you want to phrase it.
Man, as much as I hate it, I might have to go back to Electric Slide because I used to get that song all the time, and it was, whether it was in the early 90s, on in. I mean, it wasn't Miami Bass or anything, but it was just a song everybody could get out there and dance to and have fun with. So, it probably wasn't my favorite song to play by far because, like I said before, I broke the record and tossed it. But
now this would have been before my club going days, but it would have been right at the peak of your early DJing days. What about like Baby Got Back and Whoop There It Is? And, and that era?
You played all that kind of stuff, but probably I-55 Monkey Swing was a pretty good one. I mean,
most people don't realize that was based out of Jackson.
Right.
I mean, DJ and Finesse and that whole crew. And like when Napster came about, that song always shows up as a 95 South song, but it was I-55.
Right.
And like I say, a lot of people didn't realize that I don't know how that got messed up, but those guys could have been so much bigger.
Oh yeah, man.
But all those booty music groups named themselves after highways in the towns they lived in, and just a little too familiar.
Right.
But so you say Electric Slide, huh?
Yeah, I mean that was just a song that was always requested, and you had to play it a couple times a night, so it was played.
Hate that song.
Yep, I hate that song too. I hate it with a passion.
I never did the line. I couldn't do the line dance and stuff.
I get there and have fun with it. The ladies liked it. The guys liked it. So, but it was definitely not my favorite song. There's a lot more. I mean, I loved hip hop, so I'd rather be out there dancing some hip hop or Miami bass. But
so the biggest song, period. There's not a close second, whether it be from my partying days or club owning, DJing days, whatever. Still to this day is Cash Money Records taking over for the 99 and the 2000s.
Right.
Back that thing up.
There you go.
That is the club song in the South.
Right.
Anyway, I mean that's it. That is number one, and everybody else can fight over the rest. But the most requested, if taking over for the 99 in the 2000s comes over those speakers, you better not be in the way of the dance floor, or you getting run over.
Yep.
But that's good stuff there, man. So so you got Taco Tuesday today. What else is going on? Do you ever bust the tables out there at Bicycle Revolution and spin any?
Man, we've done a couple of Christmas parties where we brought turntables in and speakers and everything, lights, and done some parties. But yeah, we haven't done it in a minute. It's been a couple of years since we've done that. Most of it now is doing, like the shows we did with the Flowwood Family Festival, or don't like to do weddings a whole lot anymore. Every blue moon, if it's the right person, I'll do one. It's just, man, those things are so stressful. But the school the school dances and such are the most fun to me because it's more like the club environment in the sense that you get to play and people are dancing and having a good time and they're going there for that specific reason.
I don't have any interest in doing this in Jackson just because I don't think we can get the crowd there, honestly. But we ought to put together an old school, kind of a throwback night somewhere.
I'm down.
And figure out somewhere who'll let us do it. I mean, let's be honest, it ain't got to be too late of a night. We can start early and end early.
I mean, at 50 years old, I'm ready. I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock nowadays. So
me too. If I see 10 o'clock, people are asking me why I'm still awake.
A couple of years ago, like I said, when I was doing those shows with DJ Raj, we'd be at Hallamau, so 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, breaking down after the show, and I was like, I remember why I don't like all this anymore. And then you sleep all the rest of the day the next day because at 46 years old, that's just not. You're used to going to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
3 o'clock's a long time later.
Well, for me, I can stay awake. I can stay awake to 3 in the morning. I'm waking up at 6 a.m.
Right.
I mean, that's 6:30. It doesn't matter how late I stayed up. My body is not going to allow me to sleep past about 6:30. I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah,
this is terrible.
I'm with you, man. My wife gets up about 3:15, 3:20 every morning, and I'm usually up shortly thereafter by 5 o'clock. But like I said, I'm in bed by 9 or either falling asleep on the couch. There's many a time she's having to nudge me at 8 o'clock, 8:30, where I've kind of sit down and my body just shuts down.
Yeah. It happens. Well, yeah, man, we need to find us a little place that'll let us set up and have a good time because I think we could get a nice little – people like to call it like adult proms. I don't want to dress up, though.
Oh, yeah.
Just go and, man, hear some old music and chit-chat with some people and have a good time.
Well, that's how we came up with the old school throwdown format was at our 20-year reunion, school reunion, my buddy Charles Falk, who was one of my mentors I was talking about earlier, we were at the reunion and we're like, man, this kind of sucks. We're like, there's some people here we like and there's some people that we really didn't care for before. And he's like, is Alan still DJing? I'm like, yeah, he's at Jack and Jill's downtown. So we went to Jack and Jill's and we just hung out with Alan for a while. And we got to talking and we're like, it'd be fun instead of having a school reunion, which is not as much fun, to have an old school club reunion. And so, we started that, I guess, about 12 years ago now. And it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of people show up. Got to see faces you haven't seen in a long time. Would love to do it again.
Where'd y'all do it at?
We did George Street a couple times. We did one block east. Chip at the time had a club that was at the Edge. It was downtown.
Fire.
Okay. Yeah. It was called.
Oh, the
something.
One Sin, the one that was backside of Fire there.
Yeah. So we did it there one time. I think that's where we did it the first time when he was still doing some clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done some different locations.
I went and had lunch at CS's the other day. Inez isn't working there anymore. She didn't come back after COVID.
Oh, no.
But, that would be, to me, that would be like taking it back to its roots, doing it somewhere in that small kind of pop-up club kind of vibe.
Yeah, sure.
That would be fun.
Well, years ago, my buddy Peter Cole, I don't know if you know Peter, but, known Peter since
Edward Peter Cole.
Edward Peter Cole, if you're listening, what's happening, buddy?
He's my biggest fan. We agree on everything politically.
That's right. Well, we did actually a couple of shows at CS's. Inez was still there, and they let us come in and kind of like you're talking about. We had lights and brought the PA in and stuff, and it was fun, but it didn't take off quite like we wanted it to.
Yeah.
But if you do it once a year, that gives time for people to get the babysitters and all that kind of fun stuff if you need to, and then make plans, and then come out, have a good time, and then rest up to the next year.
Well, what you don't think about now when you put something together like that is, well, are we doing it in the fall? Because Friday nights you got high school football, or their kids are either playing or cheering or something. Saturdays, it's college football. And these are things that adults take very serious.
Very serious, especially college football.
Oh, yeah. And then during the summer, I tell you what, I didn't realize this because my daughter didn't do it, but I can't never get my buddies to do anything during the summer because they're always on the road at a softball or baseball tournament.
Right.
You know, like I just send my daughter to cheer camp and see when you get back. You know, but like these tournament ball teams and all that stuff, you know, we could do a whole show about that one day. It's probably putting people to sleep. All right, let's take our last break, come back, land the plane for the day, see what Jayce has got up his sleeve. And you're listening to The Clay Edwards Show. We'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. All right, man, we'll kind of end it with that little Egyptian Lover. It was Jayce's first song he learned how to mix on.
That's right. And that was an awesome song, too. And the Egyptian Lover played out in Inez many moons ago in the early 90s, so it's kind of a cool show to get to see doing this thing.
Remember, there's a guy that, you know, that kind of like solo artist electronic music was so popular. Remember the guy Timmy T?
Oh, yeah.
One More Try.
Oh, yeah. All freestyle music.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, what that genre, I would love for something like that to come back.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I loved it, man. That was some of my favorite music.
And it actually had hooks.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, but Egyptian Lover, Kuiper, we were talking about Kuiper earlier. You know, Kuiper, he's from Baton Rouge, and saw him many a times at Kathmandu's, Inez's, Club Rendezvous. I mean, just the music, the dancing, that was one thing. You know, he had dancers that came with him. My buddies Scott and Bobby got to dance with him one time. You know, it's just, man, times have changed a little bit.
Yeah, shout out to Wade there on the Guns and Gear text line. Wade played or was the front man in Probable Cause back in the days, that he's enjoying the throwback conversation. Somebody else texted in and said, remember licking the hand stamp and trying to roll it over to other people's hands so everybody didn't have to pay to get in.
Yep.
Good stuff there. Well, look, man, we got about a minute left. What's going on at Bicycle Revolution today?
Man, I'm about to get ready to go prep for some tacos. We've got some Jamaican jerk tacos we're doing today, and get ready for hopefully a busy day of bikes and skateboards. And then we got a planning and zoning meeting later on this evening with the city, so it's going to be a full day.
What time does lunch start?
11:30.
11:30, and it's tacos and beer.
Tacos and beer, or water and tea if you want.
And y'all have amazing salsa too, if I remember right. Don't y'all?
It's pretty good.
You have really good salsa.
We do, and as much as I'd like to claim that we make it, we get it from Sam's.
Well,
so
it'd be like that sometimes.
But it is delicious. I mean,
it is.
Some of the best. People think we make it in-house, and as much as we like to claim responsibility, we can't.
I put a lot of effort in the perfect pour of this salsa into this cup.
That's exactly right.
All right, well, look, man, Jayce, thank you for coming out and doing the show with me, and we'll put together a throwback party here soon.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mike Madison is coming up next, followed by Dana, Jameson Haygood, and Kim Wade will close out the day. If you missed any of the show, you want to go back, check out the podcast, just go to ClayEdwardsShow.com, and I will see you guys tomorrow live here on the radio. Stay safe, stay strapped down. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow at 7 a.m. as the Clay Edwards Show discusses all that is going on in and around the city of Jackson.
This concludes our broadcast day.
Right here on 103.9 WYAB.